welcome to the Book Dormer. Sit down, we're going to talk about the books I read in February of 2024. This month we have 4 books I finished, 4 novels I finished. We have a nonfiction, and then we have 4 audiobooks. But they're all from the same series. And they're all fairly short, so we're going to see how that really counts less than what I normally do. But it was, a little bit colder weather, and it's a shorter month, so I'll give myself some leeway. There is a theme this month to the reading, and it was unintended. Do you ever get an unintended theme? You're like, oh, in retrospect, that should have been obvious. I have all female protagonists. 3 of the 4 authors of the fictional novels are ladies, but all of the protagonists are ladies. Unintended. If you want to run around and go, hey, ladies, don't do that. It's creepy. All right, first off, we're going to start with the first book, and I love the backstory on this one. So I'm going to tell you the backstory and see if you know what the book is before we even show it. The author was watching Princess Bride with his family, and somebody brings up the point, hey, how come it's always the guys going and saving the girls? Why isn't the ladies ever the one initiating the saving? That brings out Tress in the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. A Princess Bride style book. Looks like a good one. Yeah. In fact, actually it was a good one. I enjoyed this read quite a bit. We're going to talk about what's in here. Not at a super spoiler level. If you ever want to do that, there's a lot of spoilers and a lot of really big in-depth reviews on this because it came out earlier last year. I think it was the first of Brandon's secret projects, because he said he wrote this for his wife and then decided maybe he should share it with others. Still a good addition. Like, this isn't the Kickstarter. Brandon did a big Kickstarter, but it's still, super nice edition. Still looks good. Tress in the Emerald Sea. And it definitely feels like the Princess Bride, which is a great thing. I love the Princess Bride, so it's a great thing to have that kind of feeling going on. Book stars Tress, obviously, and she is a young peasant lady on an island who's not allowed to leave the island. Anyone who lives on this island must stay, except if you're the Duke or a government official who's come to visit. And they do have visitors across the sea as people come in. So that's Tress. She meets Charlie, who she definitely likes Charlie. And Charlie, the Duke's son, likes her, which is a problem if you're a Duke. The girl who comes around and washes the windows and gets all the spore remnants off. We'll talk about spores coming up. Gets that remnant off. Apparently, you don't want your son marrying that lady. All right, she seems nice. In fact, actually, she's quite lovely and probably would be the right choice. But that's not how politics were done, at least in that world. By the way, speaking of worlds, this is actually part of the Cosmere. So if you've read a lot of Brandon Sanderson, you would know, you've seen some of the characters. Now, oddly enough, I read a lot of Sanderson early on. I found him from Writing Excuses, the podcast, before he had a book out. Right? They first started recording it, and he had a book that was sold but wasn't out yet. And so I read all the initial books, but I haven't gotten through the Stormlight archives. I was waiting for the first 5 to get done to start on them. We're probably at the point now that now I know they're definitely coming. I could get a set, but I want them all to look alike. You know how that goes. You want them all to look alike on the shelves. It's always kind of rough when you get like the last 2 in a series are hardbacks, but the first one's a paperback, and you got to try to find the hardback that's the same size. All right, so Tress. Charlie gets taken away to go marry a princess and doesn't come back. The Duke returns, but not with Charlie. He brings back some knucklehead who is going to be the new heir, and he's lost his heir. Well, that's a problem to the girl who loves him, so she conspires with the people that she's always been helping, because she's a super helpful type person, and gets off the island, impersonates an officer, gets off the island, and promptly kidnapped, because she managed to talk her way or force her way onto, wrong vessel. That vessel then gets attacked by pirates. This is where it starts getting interesting. So while she's on that vessel and she's getting attacked, she meets Huck, the talking rat. They have talking rats here. All right, let's roll with it. So you got a talking rat, and then they decide, hey, we need to get off this boat that's being sunk. We need to get to the other boat. But of course, you have a sea, and the seas are very interesting. There's a thing here called spores. I like to think of them like an oobleck. That's how I picture in my mind, little ooblecks, but it could be whatever. And it is a fluidization type technique. Have you ever seen the people who on YouTube, like Mark Rober's got them and a couple other people have made them, where you have a thing of sand that looks like an air hockey table. So you got fans underneath, and when the fans blow, the sand, so the air is going through the sand, it becomes like a liquid. It acts like a fluid. And if you put a ball on top, it'll sink. If you had a hot tub of it, you would sink in the hot tub. But as soon as the air stops, boom, back to solid. That's his C's on this. Brandon, I saw an interview where he said he was surprised no one had ever used it before and never used it in fiction. So he used it for his C's in this book. And it led to all sorts of craziness. Like you don't want to be on the spores when it goes wet. I mean, first off, you're just going to sink and die. Secondly, if they pop, if for some reason they go off, they get wet, they pop, bad things like tree climbs out of you. Explosions, all sorts of interesting effects. And there's multiple of these C's, so they all have different effects, different ones of these spores. And so everyone in the area knows to work around the spores. I'm not quite sure the dynamics on how, if you have spores that go off if it rains, how anyone's surviving on this planet, because that ergo means there must not be rain or not much rain. But anyways, go with it. It's Princess Bride, right? I mean, if you can have rodents of unusual size with no explanations and you can be mostly dead, we can go with this. So Tress and the rat get their way onto the boat. Tress earns her keep by doing what she does best and scrubbing things. All right. She keeps doing it, and there's a captain on there, Captain Crow. The ship is called the Crow Song, or Crow Song or Crow Song. I don't remember if there's apostrophe S. Anyways, she's Captain Crow. And she's in charge, and everyone fears her, and she is not the best person in the world. Let's say that. Even though she let this lady go on, and she's even gonna happily let Tress escape. Except that won't let Tress go get Charlie back. All right, so Tress has to go try to save her guy, and so she stays on the boat, earns her way up in the ranks. Madcap adventures happen. Very, very adorable book. I think that would be the word I would use for this book, is adorable. And I don't use that word much. I mean, look at me. I don't use that word a lot. It's a good book. And it's cute. It's not going to get a 5 out of 5 on me, but it's like a 4.5 out of 5. It was enjoyable, and I'm glad I got it. And I'm glad I spent the time reading it. And I'm kind of aiming other people at reading it. Like, hey, this book's worth you a read if you haven't seen it yet. Now, if you're a fiction fan, or if you're a fantasy fan, there's a good shot you've already seen it. But for everybody else, go for it. I mean, my daughter's going to borrow it soon. I'll aim it over here. By the way, there was definitely one of those scenes right about, a ways in. I'm not going to give a number, that when it brought out, it was the classic Sanderson. How did I not know that was going to happen? But it was amazing. Sanderson's great for that. He's, as he likes to call it, it's a surprising yet inevitable. And he had one of those, and I'm like, dude, that was so good. All right, that's Tress and the Emerald Sea. Definitely go pick it up. Next one up is I don't know if this is a Rick Riordan, the fantasy author who writes like all the Greek stuff. You can tell I didn't read Percy Jackson, can't you? Yeah, okay. Anyways, him trying to give voice to different people, and we end up with a book that, well, let me show you the best piece. You ready? Boom. Look at that cover. Oh, yeah. Okay, this is A Drop of Venom from Sanjay Patel. It stars Manisha. That's Manisha. And she is a Naga. And so reading through the description on it, Sanjay wanted to write a kind of Medusa-ish character. And a Naga exists. Now, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, I'm like, yeah, I know what a Naga does. This is set in a really lush environment, lush Indian mythology style. Like their thing, the world's got these fantastical elements. You've got Nagas, you have the evil empire, which, yeah, mustache twisting evil empire. You have monasteries floating or suspended from clouds. I don't know, but I didn't read the mythology to know how that works. But that's what happens. So Manisha, she's set upon. Her family is mostly devastated. Her people are devastated by the empire. She ends up as a priestess, so they take her in. But in true villain fashion, there's somebody just as she's taken in who just hates her. Just, you know how insta love is the thing that you always hear people in the romance readers talk about how much they hate two characters just falling in love like that. This was insta hate. No reason for it. It always stays. Insta hate. And it comes back to be a major point in this. Then you also have a second character. So you got this fella. Yeah, so you got, her, Manisha at 16. I'm going to call him Pratyus. I looked up how to pronounce his name. Pratyush. But there are a lot of different versions of that name if you read around. So I was listening to Indian accent folks saying it. And it either is Pratyush or Pratyus. I'm going to go Pratyus. He is a super hunter. He is the son of a super hunter. We meet him early and we get his backstory. So both of them have a tragic backstory. Pratyus is basically being used by the king to be his slayer. Go take care of the monsters that offend our people. And it's like a giant, hey, look over there. You can misuse, you can misabuse everybody so long as you're defending the people against the monster. You can do whatever you want. Like the soldiers are just, oh my goodness, bad people. Like there are very few guys in this book that are not just absolute garbage people. Very few of them. We got one. Pratyus is not a garbage person. In fact, his biggest thing is he would go up to these floating monasteries where they would do tea ceremony and private meditation things and religious rituals. And he falls in love with Manisha. Yeah, sorry for a spoiler, but it's kind of a hint. He's never talked to her, but he's in love with her. Yeah, it's one of those. Oh wait, at some point, he's off fighting away. She is kicked out of her element, so she's living up in that mountain. She gets betrayed, and this is bad. Like I feel bad even not giving it a perfect glowing review just because how bad what happened to her is. I don't like to read that. It's definitely trigger warning. There is a trigger warning in the book. There's a trigger warning at the beginning for an essay. I don't want to say it in case we get in trouble, but it's bad. And then it's on screen, and I'm like, oh, all right. She seems relatively unaffected, but then the next few chapters, you can tell, lingering scars. I'm going to skip any discussion on that because I don't know how that feels. So I'm just, as a reader, I'm just going, I'll just experience from her. It looks horrible. She gets out. She starts to have a little revenge theory. I was really hoping for a better revenge. I thought the revenge that happened, it was obviously a revenge story. And, if you're going to become a Naga who can somehow turn people to stone, that's what Nagas do. You would assume that there's going to be a really nice revenge at the end. And it just wasn't as satisfying as I was hoping for. Mixed in with that, other than the cover, the cover, that's a 5-star cover. Wow. Other than that, it's just the dialogue stilted. The logic is stilted. The bad guys are absolutely 1920s, tie a girl to the track and go while turning their mustache. All of them. Not one. I'm okay with one or two. But all the bad guys are that. They're just horrible, horrible. And it kind of makes it to where you're like, all right, is this like a middle grade with that? Manisha's 16, Pratyush 17, but yeah, kind of, I don't know, it kind of reads younger than it is, but then has this horrible element in the middle. So I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. I did read it, and it did, even this version also has, wait a minute, we got to get to it. Oh yeah, you know you gotta like it when they got them. Gotta have a good map, and even looks good. I mean, it looks good without the dust cover. I don't really have a lot of purple books, so liked it quite a bit on that regard. Could have been better. Sorry, no, don't hunt me down and kill me. if you were a big fan of that. Let's switch over though. Next book, book 3. You ever heard the old saying, "Don't judge a book by its cover"? Yeah. Don't tell me what to do. I judged a book by its cover. What? I bought this. I saw this book on pre-releases. Let me get over here where I can get a little shade from the light. There it goes. That's a 5-star cover right there. A Tempest of Tea. Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. Apologies if I mess up your name. I think it's Hafsa Faisal. You've got a big cast of characters and we have a heist novel. Let's meet them. By the way, inside. What? Oh, yeah. No, this is looking good. Tempest of Tea. I did double check to make sure I turned it the right way this time. You start second guessing yourself. All right, A Tempest of Tea. First off, probably the best book I've read this year. I flew through this book. It was a lot of fun. There were surprises along the path. It was a big heist, but there's so many elements in this. You have Arthi, or Arti? Arthie. I'm going to call her Arthi because that's how in my mind how I heard it when I saw it. She is an orphan. She is an outsider. She is from Ceylon, but she is in an English-ish country that's Victorian-ish England, but not actually England. She changed the name. All right. Probably because she's going to have some differences in the world. There's colonialism, so I guess there's not much difference. But there's her running a tea room. She runs a tea room. She teamed up with her adopted-ish brother, Jin. So they go by Arthi and Jin Casimir. This is a kid. She found him when his parents disappeared during a house fire and never reappeared. The house burned to the ground. And so she got the kid out and kept him safe. And together, they open a tea shop. Oh, they're also essentially mobsters. Yeah, they trade in information, but they will, go get their money. If you owe them my money, you're going to get my money. And so they go off and they have elements. You see them as very hard, very tough at one point, and then the other side, and Arthi's always telling you when people are telling her how hard she is. And then you see that she's got soft spots. Very well-developed characters. Fantastic dialogue in this book. The dialogue in this book is top-notch. In fact, it's actually one of the confusing things about this book to me, because the dialogue is so good and it feels adult that when they get to relationships and they act like middle schoolers, it's kind of confusing. All right. I don't want to give a huge run through on every piece of this book because I'm going to do a separate video just on this book, and we'll go through it all if you want to know those parts. Big thing to know, she's got a tea shop. It's called the Spindrift, all day long, and it's serving the best tea. It's over in the bad part of town, so all the rich folks come over to the bad part and kind of go slumming, go get some tea. Oh, by the way, at night it turns into a illegal blood room where vampires can meet up with people and drink their blood. Did we mention there's vampires? You got a good setting when mentioning the vampires can wait a bit. Maybe that's why it's not England. Maybe that's why it's this other English-like country. Artie and Jin meet up, heads against the Ram, the mysterious person who basically is running the government at this point, who has a private police, and for some reason, the Ram doesn't like this tea shop. We have tea shop versus government conflict, mixed with vampires, mixed with a heist novel, mixed with pretty lovable characters. At the very least, very interesting characters. Like Jin has impeccable taste. Both the male characters in here. Jin, we actually see a point of view, and then we have another character. Both impeccable taste. Both, the ladies just throw themselves at him. So naturally, when he gets up to relationship time, he's nervous and doesn't know how to talk and wonders why he's in puppy love. You got Arthi. She's no nonsense. Like, well, she's nonsense. It's actually kind of funny. She's nonsense at the same time as being no nonsense. So she'll, like, you owe her money, she's going to get her money. But at the same time, refined. The dialogue's good. There are a couple very, very good twists in this book. 4 out of 5. 5-star cover. I mean, dude, 5-star cover, right? 4 out of 5 for the book, and that's high praise. Notice, tied for the highest this year. All right, switch it up. Book 4. Book 4, I didn't realize, is a prequel. I don't remember buying this book. But as you can see, I got some books over here, and a lot of them are in the to-be-read pile. And I plan to do that sometime before the year 3000, so I guess I got to live for a while. Hopefully the house will be paid off by then. Anyways, prequel is Sight Witch by Susan Dennard. Apparently it's a prequel novel to this other world, because there's definitely discussions of another world. Now, being a prequel, you would think you wouldn't be as confused about what's going on in the world, but you'd be wrong. I know why I bought the book. I don't remember buying it, but you ever seen that nice frayed edges? There's drawings all over. It's an illustrated novella, and it feels good in the hands. I mean, the drawings are, that level. They're not, it's not a special edition book, but it feels pretty good. It's starring Ryber. She is a sister, a Sight Witch sister, who's waiting to be called. And it's been years, and she's not getting the calling. Apparently, you get the calling, come back, you have better eyes, you can see the future. Because that's what Sight Witches do, apparently. Well, Ryber, best friend, finally gets her call and leaves, even though Ryber's apparently been there longer. Ryber thinks Ryber might be the special one, because Ryber, at 4, walked up and joined the order by herself. Usually his parents bring in a kid and going, hey, I can't handle this kid, can you take him in? This is Ryber, just did it herself. Said, I'm going to be a Sight Witch, and went and joined. And they all disappear until she's the last Sight Witch. And then she's got to go figure out there's a cave system. And you go on a wild, weird adventure to go find and how to save all the friends. And then in the end, you don't. You don't save the friends. Okay. What? Yeah, it makes more sense once I looked up for this. I started reading and I'm like, oh, it's a prequel. Oh, that would have been good to know. Anyways. All right. Audio. I had finished Malazan Book 7. I wanted a break. I wanted to go sci-fi for a bit. Kind of cleanse yourself, and especially because I had a big fantasy month. And so I got Murderbot. It was on the big Audible sale. Right? They had a big sale at the end of the year. So I got a lot of Murderbot. And listened to the first 4. I do this while I walk my dog. I walk at night because, guys can walk late at night if you live in nice places. And so I do that. It's nice and quiet. I put on, go listen to an audiobook while I walk the doggo. And so I'm walking the dog, first 4 episodes. And it first started, and I'm like, I'm not sure I like this guy's voice. It grew on me. And Murderbot is by Martha Wells, in case I didn't say that. Murderbot is a sentient part human, part robot who is a droid. So he's basically a robot with human features. And he, in some human tissue. So he's having memories that are coming back from when he was previously wiped out. Because apparently, he finds in his history that he might have done some bad things. He doesn't know why he did the bad things. He's hoping it's something somebody programmed him or ordered him to do and then wiped it, but he doesn't know. But he's got these memories from it. And so it kind of drives him. Oh, by the way, he's hacked his governor. So he's got a governor that keeps him that makes him under control, right? The security unit can just say, hey, stop doing this. He's got that hacked so he can do what he wants to do. And now we're running on these adventures, but you can tell it's ingrained in him to save people and protect. So he keeps finding these groups of misfits and taking care of them and keeping them alive while he's doing different elements. I love parts of this world. I love that, he talks his way onto a transport and gets on there, and the transport robot immediately threatens him. I love that. The transport robot turns out to be great. This is like my favorite character in the whole series is a transport robot. It's the ship, but it's like not like a starship AI. It's just a transport ship's AI, but turns out really good and really loves human media. They all love human media, which is hilarious. So they trade, like, human media is like drugs that you can trade amongst the robot world. Love it. All right. Yeah, very good. I'm definitely going to listen to the rest. I don't know when, because I started book 8 of Malazan and it's 45 hours. It'll be a bit. Hopefully, gosh, I don't know. That was probably mid-April. Get back into it. We'll find out. All right, one last one I got for you. Nonfiction. Nothing gets sold until the story gets told, by Stephen Moulter. Now, why I got this is because I do presentations at conferences. I in the tech world, sometimes I get to do presentations, and I teach. I teach online, and a lot of teaching online, right, is, how to get your voice up, how to get your voice down, do that presentation part. But it's also about what you're going to show and how you show it. And Stephen Moulter, when I do these conferences, he is the expert that's hired by the company to walk the presenters through. And he's so good at looking at what you're going to present and go, focus on this. Talk about that piece. Because what he's doing is finding the interesting part. And as he said, if you're going to do something like this, a little half hour, the biggest thing I can do is make it interesting and make it to where you leave with a happy feeling. That's the meaning of doing speaking. Now, if you go back through it and find information out of it, great. Now, as an instructor, I always got to kind of go, yeah, but I'm not just here to entertain. I'm here to inform. But there's always combinations between it. And Steve's book's great on that. I mean, I told you, I don't mark up my fiction. There is highlights going on in my nonfiction. I know they're kind of hard to see, but there is definitely highlights going on and a lot of good reminders and even a couple new things. Right? I mean, I'm in the field already, so not everything's going to be new. And there's a line in here. I'll give you the short. Show that you care about it. Accept that if you're getting up and doing a presentation in front of people at like a conference, they want you to be good. They want it to work. They're on your side. Work together to make a good presentation. What you got to ask yourself, if you're presenting or if you're selling, and I'm not in sales, but if you're selling, you got to ask yourself, why would they care? Why do they care? And then focus on that. Like, tell me, you always heard this for years, right? The Steve Jobs method. And how Steve Jobs would present. He wouldn't tell you about how many megapixels it has. He would tell you what's cool about it. And that works. It really works to help people envision what you can do. If you're giving a presentation at your company, why are you giving the presentation? You're giving it for them to do something, right? Present it. Also, another one, I mean, he's got a lot of advice on just public speaking in general, too. As he mentioned, and he was quoting somebody else, but I forgot and I didn't write it down. But the quote kind of goes like this. More people fear speaking in public than dying. That means legitimately you could say more people, if they were at a funeral, would rather be in the casket than give the eulogy. You can get over this. I guarantee you can get over it. Everybody can speak in public. It's a matter of practicing, having somebody re-aim what you're saying so it's more impactful, and practice. I mean, this is number one thing I'd say if you're going to do any public speaking is practice it, which is kind of rich considering I just did this all on the cuff. But I'm not in a public, this isn't a forum, and if I was invited to a conference to speak on books, I would practice it multiple times because then it comes off natural. Right. And you'll feel so much better. I mean, you'll be more relaxed as you do it. All right. A little bit of nonfiction added to our fiction list. All right. Thanks for coming. I'll see you next time.